Ryan.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Tommy O'Brien, coming to you live from TFNN. Thanks so much for kicking off your Friday afternoon right here with me. We got about 1 hour left to go in trading until the closing bell, and you got markets picking up steam to the upside. We're coming right up to these highs at about 12:30. That's a critical area. You break above there, you're talking about the 10 a.m. price level, but markets, we're a solid 120 points off of the lows. NASDAQ 100 up 135 points, being powered higher by Amazon in particular, among some others. We got some big winners today. S&Ps, we're up by 0.3%. You see the acceleration from the lows at about 130. We're up to 68.77, up by 22 points or 0.3%. The Dow up by 43 points or 0.1% right now, and the Russell positive by 0.4%. Bitcoin up about $2,700, up 2.5%. We jump over to yields in focus. There's your drop-off on Wednesday. Chairman Powell trying to dissuade the market from thinking that the December meeting is baked in with a cut. He was saying far from it. Yields trading higher. We get the 10-year right now at about 4.09. I'm going to pull it up as I speak, and we're going to look at the 2-year as well, because that's your 10-year. You jump over to the 2-year, just right at the lows of Wednesday afternoon. You're talking about a 2-year at 3.6% right now, and our 10-year at 4.09. So you get higher yield on the prospects of the Fed. And the dollar, taking that and running with it. You look where we were Wednesday afternoon at 98.65. The Fed makes their decision. He starts talking. There it was at 2:30 when you got that initial pop. Higher yield, dollar strength, and we've carried higher to 99.79 in the dollar. And yeah, as I mentioned, gold holding up well with all that dollar strength you got. Gold just chopping around above 4,000 at 4,015. All right, let's jump into it. Amazon, you give back some of those gains, but boy, you're talking about a $23 move, up 10.5%. AWS, the cloud, growing at one of the biggest numbers they've seen since 2022. And yeah, they're taking and running with it. You take a look at this thing on a daily basis. Now, last quarter they disappoint, and boy, you make up for it and then some, right? Amazon trades low with the market yesterday. You come into those numbers at about 223. A quarter ago, you came into their numbers at about 235, and you blow it away. We make all-time highs, and you better believe we're going to have some volume. Now, you know, you have some selling, but this is all-time highs with volume. That's a daily. You take a look at the weekly on Amazon. You know, you're breaking above 3 quarters ago, February, when you had the highs before you traded lower. And yeah, you're going to blow it away with volume. And that's what will happen when you open up 15% on an equity like Amazon. Mr. Bezos having a good Friday. Apple shares, strong numbers, but the market gives it all back. You open at all-time highs, and then you just rip lower on a daily basis. Now, what's interesting is you did so much volume yesterday. Look at this. 70 million shares yesterday. You're only at 52 million right now. But there's your overnight action on Apple. So China was a problem on Apple, but boy, they beat. They're going to have a banner quarter for the holidays. But China underperforming. The market says, you know what, this morning? They say, yeah, we know they did well, but we just traded from $200 up to $270. Okay, this thing's got almost 15 billion shares outstanding. Yeah, 14.8 billion shares outstanding for Apple. You trade up $70. That's $1 trillion in market cap it's got to live up to. And the market says, well, you lived up to it. Story of expectations. Big numbers for Apple. And the fact that they said they're going to get back to growth in China. Tim Cook, he said it. If he doesn't live up to it, they'll pay for it in future quarters. But they're seeing a turnaround as they miss in China. All right, we talked about Tesla. Flying cars, they're coming, folks. We'll check it out. Tesla shares up 2.9% right now. We take a look at the volume on Tesla. Okay, some big numbers. After their numbers, big numbers after their numbers, as in you spike higher. October 23rd, 127 million. Okay, but you're struggling to get above that price point. The high there was about 450, 449.40. Okay, we're just above that area. That's a daily. Oh, you take a look at the weekly on Tesla. Yeah, look at the declining volume. You make that run September 15th, and since then, just dropping off a bit. Still some big numbers chopping around, and we're right at this area on a weekly basis. You're back to the highs of 2024, and look at the volume we did then. So that's going to be some area, some resistance you're bumping up against. You put this thing on a longer term chart, right? Yeah, above the highs of 2021, but you have the highs of 2024 sticking out there. And when you look at it on volume, there's your bar right there. 645 million shares on the weekly. We're doing 394 right now. So not the same volume we had at that high. All right, there's your bull. There it is. And the headline here, yeah, AI, right? Stocks get a month-end lift as AI fuels historic run. Amazon, big numbers. And overall, you make it through this earnings. Expectations sky high, and we got pretty decent numbers. Meta, the big miss, okay? And it's continuing today. Down by 2.7%. The market's worried again that Zuckerberg's on a spending kick. And look at that weekly, man. Look at that weekly. Meta's a great company long-term, man. He is a visionary, okay? But when the market thinks a visionary is going to spend some money for the future prospect of their aspirations without regard to the current aspect of their current financial earnings, so that company's firing on all cylinders. But boy, pay attention to the volume, folks. You know, I love the technical, the fundamentals, but you better believe I pay attention to the technicals. And they are selling the heck out of Meta shares today and just this week. Selling the heck out of it, for lack of a better term. Look at that volume, man. And we're going to get some big volume in the final 45 minutes. Volume on the close on a week like that. You better believe we're going to have some big numbers on Meta as well. Google. Quite the company. And again, story of expectations, right? You come into their numbers at 275. Great numbers. You open at 300. We're at 280. Okay, so you really got to crush it like Amazon did. Apple shares up 0.2% right now. You jump over to Microsoft. And yeah, they sold it on the open as well, off by 1.6%. You're right near the lows after their earnings from 540. And Microsoft's been on quite a run. You take a look at the weekly, though. That is some selling. Okay, can't get above the highs. The highs, 555.45. You got to 553.72, within $2 of all-time highs. And then you rip lower, and we're in risk of finishing near the low of that bar. The high, 553. The low, 515. We're at 517. All right, folks, S&Ps up 24. NASDAQ 100 up 148. Amazon up $24. Come right back.